Good morning, everyone, and thanks for coming out for this announcement. Today, I'm unveiling my plan to create more housing in the City of Windsor. A key element of this platform plank isn't simply about building new homes, but about how we build those homes and where. All levels of government recognize that we're in the midst of a housing crisis. We've seen policies at all levels trying to encourage new homes to be built, and fast. We have yet to take an aggressive approach here in the City of Windsor. We have been slow to adapt to a growth mentality and are years behind in certain housing categories, like affordable housing. In fact, we've seen our waitlist grow month over month to where over 6,000 people are now waiting for more adequate housing, affordable housing. But what has been introduced to actively encourage faster development and aggressive targets of new units? Today, I am pledging to create up to 10,000 new units over the next 5 years, and we're not stopping there. We'll increase that number to 15,000 over the following 5 years. A Holt administration will build 25,000 new units over the next 10 years in the City of Windsor, working with private developers in expediting projects and building partnerships. Here's how we plan to do it. First, we need to bolster our planning and building departments with new hires. Our own city departments are lagging behind, and the staffing shortages are holding up applications. We would immediately hire more building inspectors and planners, up to 12 as a starting point. Second, we will create a new community planning permitting system, CPPS for short, that would see building permits get out the door much faster. A CPPS would allow developers to do the work needed for approvals on their own and move quickly to get shovels in the ground. This new process will help cut timelines by months and get projects moving faster across the entire city. Third, we need to embark on a comprehensive review of our official plan, adding in the following. As of right zoning along major arterials that host major transit routes. As an example, a developer can build up to 4 stories with limited parking requirements along these corridors without a zoning change and detailed reviews and studies. We would designate or rezone as mixed commercial and residential use all land along transit corridors. We would reduce or eliminate parking minimums in certain areas of the city. We would create as-of-right zoning categories in advance to avoid rezoning applications and LPAT appeals. As an example, in older, built-up neighborhoods, developers could build up to 3 stories with reduced parking minimums without rezoning the land. We currently add between 700 to 800 new units in the City of Windsor per year. That is simply not enough. We are on the brink of unprecedented growth with the new LG investment along with the Gordie Howe Bridge. We know we need housing of all categories, and we need to make a firm commitment to create more homes for Windsorites and cut the time it takes to get shovels in the ground. Responsible leadership does this with proper planning in mind. With a keen eye on our own financial position as we grow, we can focus on our ability to both afford new infrastructure and set density targets that not only make sense for known supply chain issues, but make financial and environmental sense as well. It's really quite simple. We add more people to our built-up core who will add more tax revenue to our city coffers without expanding our infrastructure footprint. That's why I am committing to at least 50% of all new units built in the next 10 years to be developed in our current urban footprint. Infill development needs to be our focus if we want to get our financial house in order long term. As we plan for this record investment, we need to go further and think bigger. With that in mind, I am also announcing that a Holt administration is committed to creating a municipal development corporation. The City of Windsor will partner with private developers in encouraging adaptive reuse of underutilized space in our community. Sometimes those spaces are owned by the city, such as the Gray Site, the barn, or parking lots where the city has already issued EOIs or expressions of interest. But EOIs are passive and do not induce a proactive response from partners. A growing number of cities, such as Toronto, Calgary, and even Detroit, have decided to take a proactive approach in better balancing the need for more housing with the needs of the community, and they've formed municipal development corporations. The development corporation would be a municipal entity that would work in partnership with the private and nonprofit sectors to prioritize community-based needs in balance with the market's need for return on investment. There are multiple areas where this approach can be used: the barn, existing underutilized city parking lots, the lands just east of the casino, and a lot more. Let me walk you through this. Using the example of this area we're standing in right now, the developer would enter into an agreement with the City of Windsor. The city would work with the developer in hosting a design charrette involving voices from the community. The project is then fast-tracked into a development plan that would include being part of our new Community Planning Permitting System, or CPPS. Because the public was part of the design charrette and feedback from the community was incorporated into the design, the project would move through the process much quicker, avoiding rezoning backlogs and LPAT appeals. Developers would then work with our planning department to determine granting levels of permit fees and tax grants. The incentives would grow if the project included affordable units and met our community energy plan targets. This area could see new housing options mixed with more commercial and retail space to complement existing commercial spaces and become a desirable, walkable neighborhood. Look at it this way. We take this approach with large economic development projects such as the recent LG investment. We worked with LG in creating specific incentives that included tax grants, land purchasing, servicing, and more. We can do the same with local developers in inducing outcomes that make sense for Windsor. By entering into mutually beneficial development agreements with private developers and landowners, not only are we getting the new housing units, but we get them built in the way that makes sense for this community. Just look at the pictures behind me. These photos were from projects in Michigan and show how a project that focused on adapting old, underutilized space could become a beautiful, walkable neighborhood. This sea of asphalt that we're standing in right now can become a great neighborhood. But we need to actively work towards this goal with the developer and not simply wait for the right market conditions before we see any action. We need to accept the challenge we're faced with in creating more housing, but we need to do it in the right ways. We cannot make the same mistakes that the city has made in the past. We need to set targets and work proactively with developers as partners to achieve those targets. Today, I'm making a bold pledge that will deliver up to 25,000 new units over 10 years, but I want to go further than that. I also pledge that we'll achieve this in ways that complement our existing environmental and financial goals as a community. This is the kind of leadership I will bring to this issue. This is the kind of leadership Windsor deserves. It's time.